Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity news for middle market companies, their investors, and management teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, January 26th, 2026, and we are continuing to navigate very turbulent times here in the United States and abroad. The killing of Alex Preddy is weighing heavily, and I think it's worth acknowledging that weight as we start this morning. I hope only that I could be as gracious, composed, and compassionate as he was in his final moments and those leading up to them. On the cyber front, we've also had a big week, including some old problems resurfacing, a trend that seems to perpetuate around here. There was news last week from Fortinet that attackers are exploiting a vulnerability that was supposedly previously addressed by a patch in December. This was supposed to be fixed, and actually we covered it on this very show, but the patch that was supposed to fix it did not actually fix it. Reporting indicates that the attack pattern is exactly like it was prior to the patch, and that the guidance from Fortinet remains the same on updating it. I understand that it can be frustrating to think that you've already patched an item, that you fixed the issue, and it turns out the patch did not fix the issue, and you've been living with this false confidence. And it would be nice to say that this is just a Fortinet problem, but we also saw Cisco having to issue a patch for a vulnerability last week that was also present in other products that were recently updated. Unfortunately, this is simply the nature of running complex software. These systems take active maintenance. Sometimes you might hear it called care and feeding, much in the way that any other complex system does in your house, your car, or any other number of parts of our collective modern lives. I think it's often maybe wishful thinking that we can just push a patch and be done, or that these things will take care of themselves, but that's not the case. Computers, like all other systems in our universe, tend towards entropy over time, and maintaining that order as laid out and defined in the second law of thermodynamics takes a tremendous amount of energy. Your job, therefore, is to balance the amount of energy you have available to fight entropy with the amount of complexity of systems that you employ. Complex systems can offer tremendous advantages, but they often come at costs that are both non-obvious and significant. Patching software is one of those costs. The alternative, of course, is that you don't use anyone else's tool or code, but we all know that's both not feasible or reasonable, and it's premised on the idea that you yourself wouldn't write vulnerable code or introduce vulnerabilities in other ways, which, of course, is also not true. So it's interesting, therefore, to see some of the reporting around both the FortiGate and the Cisco vulnerabilities indicate that the primary attack traffic was from actors in China, because we also saw last week announcements coming out of Beijing that China has, quote, told domestic companies to stop using cybersecurity software made by roughly a dozen firms from the US and Israel due to national security concerns, unquote. Reuters reported this last week, and the U.S. companies whose software has been included in the ban includes not only Fortinet, but VMware, owned by Broadcom, Palo Alto Networks, Israeli company Checkpoint Software, and others. I think it's a little hard to read into this, especially as these companies have both physical and market footprints in mainland China. Fortinet has 3 offices in mainland China and 1 in Hong Kong. Checkpoint lists support addresses in both Shanghai and Hong Kong. Broadcom lists 6 China locations, and Palo Alto has 5 local offices in China, including 1 in Macau. Perhaps this is simply posturing, or perhaps it's tit for tat for something that we've yet to see in the news. But regardless, I think it's another wrinkle in the ongoing struggle between great powers, where cyber is now officially one of the new front lines. Your job, as noted before, is to defend accordingly as the landscape continues to shift beneath our feet, and use our energy in ways that help us manage the systems that return value and move away from those that don't, lest the systems fall to entropy and the consequences be laid upon our organizations. From a fundraising perspective, we've come back to more realistic numbers with only just over $6 billion in newly committed capital this week, though I would note that we're already over $75 billion in new capital for the month at this point, and we're not even done. At the same time, the transaction volumes I would expect to see increase, right? This dry powder does not do anybody any good when it stays dry. It needs to be used. And we're going to see, I think, transaction volumes increase in the months ahead as the decks get shuffled, as LPs seek liquidity, as investors look for their next growth opportunity. So do watch this space. A reminder that you can find links to all the articles we covered in the comment section below. You can find back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com. And now sign up for the monthly newsletter, The Intentional Dispatch, at intentionalcyber.com/newsletter. And we will see you next week for another edition of The Intentional Brief.